I did want to just talk a little bit. We are at the end of, of course, June 30th, end of the fiscal year, and we do have our annual ridership report. And overall, we had 99.3 million rides on our buses, on MAX system, and on West. So we had, I think, a good year. This was the year prior, we did hit 100 million, and I'm hoping in the year ahead we do return to that 100 million level. MAX ridership was up 9.1% over 09. Again, mostly due, I think, to the Green Line opening, but some analysis we've done would show that there would have been a very slight increase in MAX ridership even without the Green Line. The other effect, of course, on rail ridership has been that we've switched from free zone downtown to free rail zone, some fairly square to free rail zone, and so obviously some trips also switched from bus to rail. Buses overall carried 60.6 million trips, so roughly 60% of our riders were on buses last year. And again, we would expect that those numbers were somewhat down over the prior year. And again, a lot of that, I think, is due to the economy, but certainly some also to the service reductions that we've had to face over the last few years. Also good news and encouraging was West ridership was up over 14% over the year before. Clearly, that's encouraging rate of increase. We would need to continue to see that, and we're continuing to work on that. Our marketing department has been doing a terrific job of beginning to work with employers, and as employment comes back in the corridor to begin to offer this, the West service as an opportunity. Again, it's been an incredibly reliable service, very fast service, and I think the people who ride it absolutely love it, and I think even word of mouth is beginning to help us, and I think the numbers are encouraging. Also wanted to note that tomorrow will be the opening of our first bike and ride at the Sunset Transit Center, so we're very excited about this. As we've all noticed in Portland, there's been an explosion in bike riding, and it's a good thing that we want to encourage. However, it does present a logistical problem if everybody wants to bring their bikes on the MAX system. So one of the ways that we want to address this, which is actually the way I think the most successful cities internationally have addressed it, is to have large or fairly large bike parking facilities at stations, and so that people can leave their bike there in a secure environment that's controlled, access controlled by an access card, CCTV monitoring, plus the opportunity to lock a bike in a secure area. And so our first of these is open tomorrow. Again, we'll open tomorrow at noon at the Sunset Transit Center. Again, I think board members would be welcome to attend that. I know Board Member Clark is RSVP. We'll look forward to his presence there. We will, in the future, be opening 2 more of these facilities, one in Gresham and one at Beaver Transit Center. And hopefully they will continue to hopefully they will be popular and that we can begin to replicate it elsewhere in the system. I should also note that with the Portland-Milwaukee project, as it's designing stations, has thought about this in advance, and so that's one of the nice lessons learned is that we need to do more to accommodate bicycling at our and bicycle storage at our stations. So again, I think an important milestone for us tomorrow. I also had the pleasure earlier this week of attending a celebration on the 20th anniversary of the ADA, and it was a great event that I think celebrated this really milestone. Somebody noted it was really the last Civil Rights Act, if you will, of our 20th century. It was an important act, a major milestone. You should know that TriMet takes, again, our responsibilities related to ADA very seriously. Continue to work on that. Our commitment to that actually goes before the ADA. I was told the other day that our first lift-equipped bus was purchased in 1982, and it was not particularly reliable, so we can look back and say we've made an enormous amount of progress in terms of accessibility and service to those with disabilities and the elderly. But clearly we can always do better, and that's our objective, is to do the best we can in terms of providing those services. Also, just wanted to note, we, as many of you know, TriMet is a leader in what we would call open source data, as is the city of Portland overall, and many in this region. Mayor Adams has supported a contest that has been related to sort of civic apps, as it's called, or applications. Last week there was an international conference on open source technology that was held here at our Oregon Convention Center. The winners of the contest, well, there were a number of them, two very important ones that dealt with some of the very popular TriMet-related apps. One was John McBride, who won for the most useful app with an application called mytrimet.com. And Andy Wallace, based on his very popular app called PDX-Bus, which frankly many of you use on a regular basis. So we're pleased again that we sort of were on that cutting edge of new technology and innovation related to providing our substantial data and making it useful for the public. Last, I would just note that I'm continuing a series of employee meetings. Shift change last night. I was able to actually ride a bus through the bus wash, as well as talk to many of our maintenance staff. So I'm continuing to have a very good time actually getting to know our frontline employees quite well. And actually some pretty tough questions come from that crowd. So it's been actually a pretty good experience for me. I'd also note that on your table should be a very thick, boring, but hopefully somewhat useful annual report that some of you who have been on the board have seen before, which is the ORS requires that we provide you an annual report of the agency's activities, and so that is provided. And it's a good record of the activities of the agency over the last year. With that, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So, we're in the transit business. We're moving people. If we look at the page that relates to, it's from Nancy, that talks about the system ridership summary, and we look at, as you observed, ridership is up a tad, less than 1% with the green line. We've moved probably some people from bus to max in that area. For a new person, and from a business standpoint, it would inform me and possibly the board that maybe quarterly, could we get what I would call a trend analysis report that would indicate, and I wouldn't think we need this every month, but just showing by month in comparison with a year ago, how does ridership track? We see it here on a monthly basis, but the reason I think the trend would be valuable because it would provide some indication of how are we doing in a continuum compared to a previous period of time. And that's the business we're in, growing transit.
Right.
It would be a comparison to some analytics that may compare how's payroll tax doing, or how's the unemployment rate doing, or job creation, because hopefully ridership growth will follow an improvement in the economy. And I think it may give us some comfort. It may point us at some point to make decisions if the trend's going either the right way and we say we're going to accelerate investments, or if it's going south, we make some changes. And I'm sure you look at those kinds of things. I suspect they're in the budget. To that point, if we look down at the last column, which talks about operation cost per boarding ride, there seem to be, in comparison, some significant changes in terms of the not only the monthly but the annual cost of boarding ride related to bus, and at least on a 1 month trend, the monthly cost of boarding ride for bus. And I'm not sure why those are. You I'm sure know, but if there's a trend occurring, and we can see that in a continuum, and this is just my second board meeting, so everybody else may know these trends. It would seemingly inform me and possibly everybody else who may already be informed.
Board Member, I would completely agree, and actually have been, even this morning, talking with the Finance Committee about a tool that I call a dashboard, which I think would begin to offer some of those observations that you're looking for. And needs to be done, of course, at different layers of data for different parties and interests. Obviously, management wants to drill down very deep into some of these things, but some of the trends that you're describing, I think, would be part of that. And we have a team working to try to put those together, and those thoughts about those comparisons will be picked up on by staff as we develop that.
I really think that information would be valuable not only to the finance committee, but from a public policy standpoint, it would give the entire board a perspective that we could say, yes, we're headed in the right direction, or we need to tweak it a little bit, or maybe go right when we thought we should be going left. The other is, as the budget's created in a financial framework, is there a budget for ridership on a monthly basis? Do you budget on
I wouldn't say there's a budget, but there is a budget for passenger revenue, and maybe that's just in terms of the apples to apples, that would be the comparison when you're on a scale of dollars. So.
The reason why it might be interesting at some point, not to micromanage your operation, but when board members or you are asked to increase service, we've had to decrease service recently, or will, when you go into the community and folks like in the west side have asked for service to certain business sectors or business neighborhoods, if there was some information to say that this is our budgeted goal, not only for revenue, but seemingly boarding trips beget revenue, that revenue doesn't itself occur just because of revenue, it's because we're providing more rides. If we would have some sense of what we're focused on in terms of total number of riders by service, I think it'd be informative, but it would also allow us as board members to respond to communities that say we want more, and we can at least make the reference between numbers of trips required to fund something, and then that would inform us how to make even better public policy.
I think we have some of that in place. It's probably something that we need to bring new board members up to speed on in terms of our definition of our thresholds for boarding rides per hour, those kinds of things, because we do have that. Like, one thing that TriMet is very good at is measuring, and there's too much data. We're trying to, I think Neil alluded to the fact that we're trying to put it in a format that not only the board but the public can understand and help increase their knowledge of what we're doing in the context of our decision making. The other thing that Neil didn't mention was that we'd like to include things like safety and security in those metrics, how much crime, how much accidents, those kinds of things. So we can all measure progress, and all be informed about the context and management, frankly, has to make decisions.
And my reason for this, or the thought, is that it helps us make decisions on the next 5 years or the next 15 years. It allows us, that information gives us a chance to make better public policy.
Thanks, Steve. And thanks for being such a conscientious board member. I see all those notes in the investment plan. Yeah. Yeah, I saw him furiously yellowing out from the paragraph. So are there other questions of our general manager prior to moving on? If not,
Mr. Chairman, just one general question that will be so hard that it'll take you just a couple of minutes to answer. How are you doing in your first few weeks?
Thank you for the question and the concern. Actually, very well. I've found a great deal of, I think, support when I've been meeting with our employees in our report areas and the range areas that reported yesterday. Been doing that quite a bit. And one of the things I find, again, is, and I'm so encouraged by, is the confidence and the dedication of so many TriMet employees. So to know that you're surrounded by that is very comforting. Needless to say, it's been a challenge a day in a minute, but I'm pleased with that. For example, safety initiatives, I think, are moving in the right direction. I think I'd love to have a union agreement report. I know that we're moving progressively to resolve that. So I feel very good about those general trends.
and I can attest that he's been a very busy general manager, and he's been very responsive with respect to communication from myself and other board members and constituents and stakeholders. So, so far, Neil, I think you're doing an excellent job.
Good. Well, thank you. And your feedback will be essential to